Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Hope Sheds Light Family Support Meeting. I'm Steve Willis, co-founder of Hope Sheds Light, and on behalf of my partners, Barbara Prima and Ron Rosetto, I welcome you to this wonderful meeting we have every Tuesday night. And welcome to all of our Facebook friends too. We're grateful that you share this time with us. For those of you who are new, I'll introduce Hope. Hope is a family-focused nonprofit organization. Our mission is to raise awareness and to educate individuals, families, and the community about the impact of addiction by having the courage to share our personal experiences, by offering our wisdom and our strength, and by providing hope and resources that lead to the long-term recovery of the whole family. We want to remove the fear and stigma that still surrounds this disease by offering a loving and hopeful and safe environment that allows families to heal and brings wellness to the community. And we do that in part through this meeting. We meet here in the beautiful Holy Cross Lutheran Church the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. On the first and third Tuesday, we meet at our Hope office at 253 Chestnut Street. The format of that is a bit different than this. The format there is really a group learning kind of format where we introduce topics that are designed to enhance the recovery efforts of family members, something practices that you can do in the home. And let's see, well, we have a grief meeting that meets every Thursday night for people who have lost loved ones to addiction. Beginning again in January, we'll have family support meetings in Red Bank. So it's growing, and it's just so important. It really is, and it's a joy to do. All the meetings are open to anyone that's impacted by addiction. Our hope is that by us sharing with you and you with us, you'll change the way you think and feel about addiction and become healthier. The format tonight, we start with an educational piece. We're blessed to have really talented folks from the community who care about what we're doing, about what they're doing, to talk about different aspects of prevention, treatment, and recovery. Lasts about 45, 50 minutes. And then we break out into small groups to discuss what we've heard, what's on our hearts. Importantly, we talk about the things that we can do as family members, as individuals, to aid in our own recovery efforts. So thank you for being with us, those that are new, and for those that keep coming back. We're blessed, really, to do what we do. So tonight, let me introduce our speaker. His name is Ken Blackman, and he's a human being in recovery, and we're grateful that he's here.
Hello, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself so you can understand who I am, and that you'll know that I understand what everyone is going through here, whether you're an addict, whether you have a child who's an addict, whether you've lost a child or a loved one from this disease. So, in 1973 is when I first started to smoke marijuana. I was 10 years old. That escalated more into like the speedy aspects I liked more. So it was black beauties, speed, became cocaine. Then it was crack cocaine. By the time I was 31, I was almost dead. I had come to a point in my life where it was probably overdose, maybe have a heart attack, go to jail, or definitely get killed in some of the buildings that I was hanging out in Harlem, and it was unbelievable. So over New Year's Eve of 93 to 94, I had an epiphany. I was up for 4 days with no sleep, and I blacked out, and I still to this day don't know what happened. I just know when I woke up, my entire apartment was ransacked. All my furniture was flipped. My cap was missing out of my mouth, and the windows were wide open. It was January 1st. It was 18 degrees. So I just walked into my bathroom, and I looked at myself. It's like, if I don't do something right now, I'm not going to make it. So I needed to get away. I couldn't. My biggest thing for me to get clean is that I had to be away from anybody who was doing it. I could not be around anybody who was doing it, and I was surrounded everywhere. It was the people I was hanging out with, running illegal after hours clubs for people in Newark. Everybody wanted to be my friend. If they wanted a bookmaker or they needed some money from a loan shark, I was the guy they could see and I could introduce them. And so I would go out and I'd shake their hand and put a package in my hand, not really realizing that Now I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do after doing that first line and until I have no more resources left, no matter where that took me. So I was like, okay, I was always a bartender. I had always worked for tips. And I was like, what am I gonna do? I have to go to some place that's a resort type of area so I can make a living. So I thought of Florida, and then I thought of Las Vegas. And I was so scared for my life that Florida wasn't far enough away. I was like, what if I bump into somebody? I needed to be away. So I sold everything I had. I had never been to Las Vegas before. I had $2,000 in my pocket. I called the Chamber of Commerce. I got a relocation kit. I found an apartment finding service. I paid my rent for 6 months. I had a trunk full of clothes and a one-way ticket by myself. I went out to Las Vegas and I did everything that I set out to do. I got my life together. I worked for corporate America for 22 years. I bought a house, which I still own, and I raised a child. But addiction wasn't done with me yet. 4 years ago, this past summer, I lost my only child, Brandon, to heroin. He didn't have an overdose. Another way that heroin kills that people don't talk about is it stops your lung function. Okay, my son had asthma, and he was just getting his act together. He got his first job. I just bought him a bunch of clothes so he would look good. He was doing sales. I was at work one day, and he relapsed and just happened to have an asthma attack. The only reason I know how he died was because he ran to the neighbor's house and banged on the door and showed him that he couldn't suck in his inhaler. He had his rescue inhaler, so it wasn't that he was nodding or anything. He just had enough in his body. He collapsed. They called the ambulance. They tried to give him CPR. By the time they got him revived, he was gone for 15 minutes. What's the problem with that is what people don't talk about. If you have an asthma attack and you're on opioids or heroin, you have literally a minute and a half brain damage starts. And in 5 to 7 minutes, your brain swells, it herniates your brain stem, and you're gone. There was, after the fact, I started doing some research on this, and there was literally 100% death rate for people that had asthma attacks while they were high on heroin or opioids. So if anybody you know, your loved ones, happens to have asthma, COPD, please, I'm actually right now trying to work with Andy Kim. I wrote him an email. He's a congressman in my district to see if they can pass a bill that won't cost any money. I just want them to make it mandatory to doctors when they're prescribing opioids, because they do provide a service for pain, that they have to inform them if you have a breathing problem, or when you go to pick up your prescription from at a drugstore, that you have to get a mandatory counseling from the pharmacist. Doesn't cost a penny, and it's going to save a lot of lives. So many times across the country, when there's people that are doing autopsies, they're not even doctors. They test your blood, they find it's heroin, and they say, okay, it's an overdose. And a lot of these people, they're suffocating. So that little point of information on that is very important. So once my son died, I didn't know if I wanted to die. The pain was indescribable. I went to therapy, I got on antidepressants, and nothing was helping, and I found myself now reverting back to old ways because I couldn't turn off my brain. I just couldn't sleep. Literally, I was drinking a half a bottle of Jack Daniels along with Xanax and with Ambien just to knock myself out because I couldn't get any sleep. And then as soon as I woke up, my eyes opened, I was awake for the rest of the day. So I knew I needed to be closer to my family. And I saw myself falling down a big thing. So to save my life, in '94, I moved out to Vegas. To save my life again, I moved back to New Jersey to be around my family. My mom and my stepdad were from Falkland River. My sister and my brother-in-law were from Toms River. Right now I'm in Bayville, so it was kind of in the middle. So I got back, and I was looking for a group, because I had done the one-on-one therapy. I was on my my Zoloft, my antidepressants. And so a good friend of mine directed me to a woman named Lynn Schneider at Common Ground Grief Center. It's in Manasquan, New Jersey. She set me up, and it was, I went for my first meeting. It was 7 women and myself. They shared their stories and cried. I shared my story and cried. I didn't know if it had helped me though when I left, but I gave my word to my friend that I would continue to go. 3 or 4 sessions later, I found myself putting myself in other people's shoes. And that's when it started to work for me. There was a woman who had 3 children, and one died, and then 2 weeks later her husband left her. And there was another woman who had a twin, and she always talked about how hard it was around the holidays and birthdays, because you want to be happy for the one, but you're grieving the other one. And I was like, could I have done that? 'Cause I always thought my pain was the worst because I had an only child that died. And then, so I started reaching out and helping people. Like a lot of it was from addiction, and so I had a lot to offer with that, you know, about going to counseling, about doing different things. And I was going for about 3 months, and I got an email one day from Lynn Schneider. She's the founder and the executive director of Common Ground Grief Center. And she asked me if I had ever thought about being a volunteer for the children that go there. And at the time I was like, no, I can't. There's just no way. I'm trying to save my own life here. But she was giving me free therapy, so I gave her some of my time. I went, I spoke with her. She explained to me what I had to do to become a facilitator. And I still wasn't going to do it. My cousin talked me into it. And I said, okay, I did the 21 hours of classes. It was 4 days. And you know, paid for my background check, and then I started. And my very first meeting changed my life. So I go there, and I'm sitting down, and like I said, I work with 6 to 12-year-olds, and we pass a stick. It's called a talking stick. So when you get the stick, you say your name, your age, who died, how they died. So there was 2 siblings, 6 and 10 years old, who, when they got the stick, they said that their dad and their stepdad had died from a heart attack. When I got the stick, I said, my name is Kenny, I'm 53 years old, and my son died from drugs. Now we have about a half an hour, 40-minute discussion group with the children to get them to talk, and we ask them some very hard questions. You know, how old do you think you're going to be when you're dying? Do you think you're going to die from the same thing as your loved one? You know, has anybody ever lied to you about the way your loved one died? I mean, they're tough questions for small children, but they're, you know, you'd be surprised, you know, the answers they get, and they talk. So now they go and they play after that half an hour, and there's 5 or 6 rooms, and they're all set up for different type of play, and we monitor their play. Well, this night, the 10-year-old runs up to me and whispers in my ear, my daddy died from drugs too, after she had just said it was a heart attack. And the next meeting after that, she didn't lie anymore. She told the truth, and in the meeting after that, her 6-year-old sister told the truth. And it just opened something up in my heart. I didn't do anything special. I was just volunteering. I was just present there and shared my pain, and that made it okay for her not to be embarrassed, because she finally knew somebody who died from drugs also. And then that just opened up a whole bunch of different things for me. Well, now I had to volunteer. I saw the healing effects of my volunteering. And I spoke at one of their fundraisers, and even though I get nervous when I speak, and when I get done, sometimes somebody will say, hey, can I have your contact information? I might have some, and my hands will be shaking. And it's like an endorphin rush, but 10 minutes later, it takes me to a place of pure calm. And it's the only time that I actually feel that way. It's my new addiction. And as far as addiction goes, believe me, it's the best one I've ever had, by far. So now we do that. I've been doing it for 4 years. And this year we're at our fundraiser that we have at the Berkeley in Asbury, we have the whole 2nd floor. I mean, we've gotten that big. There's 6 ballrooms up there. That place has really, really changed my life. Now you know who I am a little bit. Now we're going to speak about the holidays and why the holidays this time of year can be so tough. And we all know, it gets dark early. It's gray outside a lot. The leaves are gone. You're getting in the middle, and maybe as a child you had fond memories of Christmas and Hanukkah, and now they're not so fond, or maybe you had horrible memories and it just brings up bad memories for yourself. And it's like, why does it always have to be so stressful? Why does it always have to be so hard when it's supposed to be such a joyful time of the year? You know, you're celebrating, you know, the birth of Christ, you're celebrating love and peace, and you're miserable. You're running around, you can never get anything done. And as an addict, it's also a time of year where people are out, we're drinking. You know, they're at parties, at family functions. And so you have to really, really be on guard at these times. It doesn't mean that you can't go to a party, but you have to make sure that you're careful. You know, there's a lot of things that you have to look out for while you're doing that. I cheat. I mean, you have to know your triggers. Okay, does anybody want to share some of your triggers with me right now? It's something that sets you off, something that makes you want to use again? Anyone? No? For me, it was, if I had a problem, you know, I would be arguing with my dad. It was his fault. Something happened bad at work. You know, it's like, you know, it's just, my car would break down, get a flat tire, if it was anything that was, you know, it made my life inconvenient, that was a reason for me to use. You know, something bad would happen. It's like, oh, really? You think you can hurt me? I'll show you how I can hurt myself way more than you could ever. I mean, I remember those words coming out of my mouth. And that's insanity for something like that, you know, to happen. It's just a tough time of the year. You know, I just wish it could be easier, but it's not. So you have to know what your triggers are. Okay, so this time of year, it's going to be important to be in touch with your sponsors, or if you're people that go to what's it called? I'm forgetting. Al-Anon. Okay, maybe you have a family a member that's using, and that's where you would go to, you know, to Al-Anon or something like that to get, you know, to teach you how to live, you know, when you have a family member is using. You know, you need to be on top of that all the time. For me, I like to go to the gym. You know, you'd be surprised if you're in a really bad mood and you just need to let off some steam. I would go in there sometimes, and by halfway through working out, I would forget why I was even pissed. I mean, it's getting that endorphin blast. It's it's a fake high, but you know, it's making you feel good, and you're letting off steam, and that's important to let that off. You know, because sometimes you just want to cry. Well, get on a treadmill and run. You know, and it's really important. I also and sometimes people can't afford the gym. There's also YMCA's in the areas, which will be a little less expensive for you. I like to go to the beach sometimes. You know, actually my neighbor in Las Vegas taught me this. And he talked to me because he wanted me to understand that he understood death. Because his son was the one who gave my son CPR. So they were from Afghanistan, and but they're Persian. It was a dialect thing, which I didn't know at the time. And he sat down and he explained to me that he wasn't a religious man. He wasn't Muslim. The family didn't believe in religion. So he was a political prisoner. And while he was a political prisoner, his family would come see him once a month, and then all of a sudden they didn't show up for a month, and then they didn't show up for 2 months, and then it was 3 months. And then 4 years later, he got out. They blew up his house and they killed his entire family. They killed his wife, they killed his 2 children, they killed his mother, his father. And the only person that was left, he pointed to in front, he goes, that's my cousin. He's the only one that was in that house that lived. He goes, so I understand what you're going through and the pain of losing your child. And he taught me this thing, and for me, it really works. He's like, I go to the beach. I sit on the beach, he goes, and I talk to my loved ones. He goes, when the waves are going out, I ask my question. When the waves are coming in, it's them giving me their answer. You know, you need to have that space in your head, you know, to relax. And we're fortunate enough that we are by the ocean. And I tell you what, if there's snow on the beach, it's a double win. Is it something for me, having snow on the sand and being on the beach at the same time. It's because you always in the beach you're always thinking of being it's sunny and warm and running around in bathing suits. So that's another thing that you can do, and also volunteer. I mean, volunteering, it's what I'm doing right now. It's what it makes me feel good. And everybody who I tell to volunteer, when they get done, I ask them, how'd you feel? There was a lady in my grief group, and I was like, do something. She washed dishes one Thanksgiving, and I had her number. I text her, I go, how you? She was like, you know what? I felt better. Not forever, but for the moment. It got me through the moment. And that's what it's all about. It's just getting through that one moment. You can deal with the next moment when that next moment comes. But you need to have these tools to deal with the moments when the tough times come. There's tons of stuff you can do. There's soup kitchens that need people. There's Meals on Wheels. My brother-in-law and my sister, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, they're up 6:30 in the morning. And they loading their SUVs up, bringing meals to less fortunate people. There's just so many ways you can help out. A lot of these churches and synagogues and stuff, they need somebody to maintain or cut. You're just doing somebody a favor. Being there for somebody is such a great feeling. And once you start to do it, you'll want to do it more. And it's just another way to get through what you need to get through. People think that because of the fact that you're an addict, that you can't go and have fun at family events. It's not a death sentence. You could still go to a party. You're not going to go to a party, of course, with your buddies that there's all going to be drugs to, but there could be friends or family. You need to, before you go, a good thing is to have a plan, an out plan. Once you get there, just if you see somebody, for me, if I see somebody tweaking, I can't even be around that to this day, and I haven't used coke or anything, 20 years. But if I see somebody grinding their teeth or just, it's dry, it's like spiders crawling all over me. I just can't be around that, and I can understand another person not wanting to be around the alcohol or any other kind of stuff. It's easy. Practice your out. Practice what you're going to say to the person. Have an escape plan. Bring a friend with you who's a sober friend. There are sober parties. I went online and I just Googled real fast holiday events during sober holiday events. And there was 2 or 3 websites came up with calendars for all these different types of things. You can just Google. They're out there. Look for things in your area. Go to midnight mass. Go to some more meetings. Maybe you go to an NA meeting or when you're out and maybe speak at that meeting. There's a lot of things you can do. Don't beat up on yourself. Treat yourself good. Maybe there's something you wanted to buy for yourself. I always like Amazon. It's like getting presents year round. It's like, what it is, you're buying it, but it's just, you see that package, it's like right on Christmas again. There's a lot of ways that you can do stuff to keep your head where your head needs to be. So, let's see. Another trick that I had learned is that I like to read a lot of psychology books, and you can actually reprogram yourself. When you go to like a rehab or something, you always see it's like a 28-day thing. It's that 4-week period of not doing something or doing something, which can break a habit. You could look yourself in the mirror, and you should every morning. I'm a great person. I can do this. I can get through anything. The pain's not going to bother me. It's that positive affirmation of yourself. Affirmation. And then you start to believe, and that's what you need to. You need to do. There's little tiny tricks along the way that can make everything so much smoother than it has to be around the holidays. So please don't beat yourself up. It's always also a good time of the year to write letters. Not emails, not text messages. You can go to a dollar store. You can get a card for $1. Get yourself a pen and some paper. Maybe there's a person you used to hang out with, but you can't hang out with that person anymore because they're an active user and you know what's gonna happen. Sit down and write down your feelings. Hey, I miss you, it's not that I don't care about you, but I can't be around you. I like this, but I still love you. Maybe it's somebody that you did wrong because of your addiction. You don't have to ask them for anything. Sit down and write a heartfelt letter. The power of writing something down on a piece of paper and putting it in an envelope and buying a stamp and taking that and putting it in the mailbox is hundreds of times more powerful than picking up your phone and sending a text message, than sending somebody an email. It's a great, writing is a great tool that you can use for so many things. You have problems, we do it with the kids at the Grief Center. We have like paper that dissolves in water, and they write down something that hurts them the most about their loved one. And then they drop the piece of paper in the water and they take a spoon, they spin it, and then the paper disappears. And so it's just, those little tools like that really can help. You could look for, I know my oldest stepbrother has his doctorate in psychology, but along the way, when he was still going to college, he ran a place called Main Street Counseling. It was up in West Orange, New Jersey. And if you had no money, they would still see you. They did things on a slide scale. There are places like that out there. If you think that you need some therapy, you think you need someone to talk to, but you just don't, your insurance doesn't cover it, or you don't have the money on hand to pay out of pocket. It's go on your computer. Use your phone if you don't have a computer, or if you have a smartphone. There's tools out there, okay, to help you get through what you need to get through. And lastly, you have to understand, and I got taught this, so it's a holiday, and this gift was given to me, so hopefully I can give this gift back to you. Those two children I spoke about earlier, okay, they gave me a gift that life is a gift. Life is precious. There's gonna be pain in any kind of regular life. There's always something. There's always something that goes wrong at the wrong time. You're gonna go through breakups. You're gonna lose a friend. Or a dear loved one. You'll have maybe addiction. There's just so many things over a course of a life. You get fired from a job. You don't get the promotion that you wanted to get because you thought you should get. Life is still a gift. I get up every morning and first thing is I think about my son, Brandon. I think about him during the day and I speak about him often. And before I go to bed, a lot of times, I still cry. I'm not hysterically like I used to, but 4 times a week, I'll cry about my boy. But you know what? Life is still a gift because every single morning that I wake up, I have another chance to make a difference. I have another chance to leave this place better than it was when I found it. So please, enjoy your holiday season. Get the most out of it. There's so many things that you can do. Have fun things, sober things. Get the most out of this year and then every day after that. Okay? Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you tonight. Happy holidays.